Do you think that this was a successful trade for them in the aspect that, yeah, James Harden was being difficult and they needed to get rid of him and get rid of that toxicity out of the locker room? Or was this a rush trade that didn't have to be made by 1 p.m. Pacific time on a Wednesday when James Harden could play not even 12 hours ago?
I would like to see, hopefully, we find out within the next hour of this recording, but I would like to see what Philadelphia offered if they caved in and even offered Ben Simmons, because there's a possibility they didn't even offer him, right? There's a possibility they're like, nah, I'd rather keep Ben. But initial reaction for the return for Houston is that's a lot of pick swaps. I mean, that's a lot of picks, a lot of pick swaps. That's like 8 years of draft control, really, that Brooklyn has just given Houston. Now, Kyrie Irving is never. It looks like Kyrie Irving is going to be out for a little bit longer, right? But with his thing, even when he played for the Celtics, he always mentioned about retiring early. And now you have Stephen A. Smith saying he should retire, but that's something we'll get into later. Kevin Durant, while he is putting up massive numbers, what if he's just coming out hot and eventually the wear and tear of the NBA season starts to mess with him a little bit, right? In James Harden's case, he's 31, 32, around there, and he came in overweight. So you have three guys that are all-time greats, right? But that's 8 years of draft control you gave up for those guys who are most certainly, I would say, two of the three are going to be out of the league within 6 years. So it's tough to say, but honestly, I think the return Houston got is good. I just need to see what Philadelphia offered. What's my reaction for Houston now? They got Oladipo in 8 years of draft control from the Nets for James Harden. Bro, I got to say that they did pretty good, man. Like, that's a pretty good
Yeah.
trade. Even if Philadelphia offered Ben Simmons, like all that draft control, dude, and for a team like Brooklyn, who, you know what I mean, injuries and everything could happen. Those guys are older. This shit could hit the fan, dude. You know what? I'm giving Houston an A for this deal. Maybe they didn't get enough back, but they got rid of all that toxicity and they brought in Oladipo, dude. Great move for them. The Pacers, why would they do this? I'm not really sure. Depot was an Indiana guy, went to college in Indiana, but at the same time, he's older. He expressed last offseason that he wasn't really interested in being there. So you got Karis LeVert, who, you know, while KD and Kyrie were out, LeVert was balling. So we'll see how he does in Indiana. Houston, we'll see how they do. But man, the Brooklyn Nets just put together a big three of historically great players. Players that are going to go down in history as one of the most mysterious, one of the coolest, funnest players to watch, and one of the fattest, most comical guys ever. The guy can go into a nightclub, eat 2 dozen chicken wings, and then come out and put up 40 on your team. It doesn't matter. James Harden is generational talent. I think Brooklyn and Houston, if it all goes well, they could very well have evened out the trade.
Now you say that, but I will bring up that rarely, Caleb, have we ever seen both sides of a trade end up being successful for both teams, right? So right now, I'm looking at Houston and I'm okay with what they did. I like what they did. They got Brooklyn's draft control for the next 8 years. Now, here is my thing. How many of those picks will end up being valuable picks, right? And we talk about this every time with teams that decide to make trades with teams that are already good. For example, look at a David Griffin and what he did with New Orleans. He decided, instead of me going to get a bunch of pick swaps, I'm going to go get a proven young guy in a Brandon Ingram, and I'm going to make him one of my franchise pieces. On top of that, I'm going to get more picks as well as pick swaps. So what that does is that not only ensures that you have a young piece, but that ensures that you have draft control from the other team just in case that other team falls apart, just like we've seen with the Brooklyn Nets after they traded for KG and Paul Pierce, and you have their draft control for years. Now, I don't know what those picks are going to be. And that's what's a little bit worrying for the Houston Rockets. They didn't get any bit of current talent right now.
Oladipo,
That is worrying. I'm sorry. That is a
Karis
little
LeVert
bit
for
concerning.
Depot. Dude, they flipped Karis LeVert for Depot already, dude. They already got
And
their
Victor
talent back.
Oladipo is coming off a major injury again. And this year,
Yeah.
he doesn't play back to backs. You traded for a guy that doesn't even play back to backs, and he's not on the front end of his career. He's on the back end of his career.
Those picks, I mean, like I'm guaranteeing the first 3 years of those picks, they're not probably not going to be good. That comes down to drafting right in like the 25 to 30 range. But after that, that's where it gets exciting. That's where it gets really, really exciting. Like the first year of the Celtics picks from Brooklyn, our first pick was James Young. And then immediately the year after that, we got Jaylen Brown and then Jason Tatum. So it takes time. Rockets fans, those picks you're probably not going to see an immediate return for 3, 4, 5 years. But down the road, those picks could be very good. Or you guys might draft well. There's draft steals every year. You could get a guy at that 25 spot that's really good.
And I hate to play devil's advocate, but I just look at it and I'm like, what if they don't draft well? What if Houston
Well,
ends up getting the 20th pick and the 15th pick, and the Nets just end up as a playoff team for the next 5 to 6 years? Then that trade ends up as a colossal failure.